'Tis the season for all those ELC signings and playoff hopes dashing away.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jess Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me. Today, we are going to chat about the Flames signing Aydnar Suniev, who just had a great season with UMass, and what this means for the prospect pipeline, as well as the Flames just not being able to finish the job, and they can't get it done. So is it time to just accept defeat and roll with these last 7 games? Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. Your Calgary Flames every day. And let's dive right into this, because how exciting is it, right? When one of your draft picks, who is very good and had a fantastic season with his college team, decides to sign his deal. So Aydnar Suniev was a third-round draft pick back in 2023, 80th overall, and Conroy got it done. It's just exciting. I mean, you have more youth coming into your franchise, and that is something that the Flames need. And he also has something else that the Flames need. He is an offense machine. He had 38 points and 20 goals in 35 games. This is impressive. And I understand it. Your scoring abilities and your talents don't always necessarily translate to the NHL right away or at all. But I would like to see the glass half full right now. I think that, I do hope that his scoring follows him, of course. And it's just a matter of the Flames finally stop being stubborn and accept that they need to start getting younger and actually doing something about it. Because naming half your lineup as the leadership group and then having 23, 24-year-olds in the lineup, I don't know. To me, that just doesn't, you're still in denial of the fact that you need to get better. And I think that this is a step in the right direction. Pat Steinberg did say that if the Flames are out of it, there's a chance we do get to see him in the NHL before the end of the season, which would burn a year of his entry-level contract, which is what the same thing that happened with Matt Coronado. So it's not unfamiliar or, and the contract is obviously for 3 years at $923,333. I mean, honestly, that's a fair deal. I mean, with the cap going up, you're only going to see these entry-level contracts and bridge deals get more expensive, I guess would be the term, but I think it's fine. I'm not necessarily concerned with the Flames and managing cap space, knock on wood. I think that they've inherited a decent situation for the time being, and now it's up to Craig Conroy to really shift gears. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but similar to Matt Coronado, it sounds like Suniev needs some help skating, which, I mean, honestly, at that age, you're still refining your craft. And he had a fantastic season with UMass. They were just recently eliminated, and I think that it is, like I said, a step in the right direction, but also just adding more to the pot, and the Flames need that. The Flames need to continue to add and really focus on developing these young players. I look back to last season when Matt Coronado really struggled with his stamina and, kind of plateauing and struggling with skating. A similar situation probably going to happen here. He's going to need to have, some lessons to get him to be a professional. It's not this overnight success that happens. These kids are cooking and living by themselves. They have to dress themselves. They have to go shopping and find suits and jackets and everything. They need to eat like a professional athlete, which I think is one of the biggest challenges because I don't necessarily, I don't know for certain. I know that UMass has like the best college dining in the country, which is pretty neat. But, having enough fuel in your body to perform at that level is a big deal. And that's something that has to change. And you see a lot of guys bulk up in their first 2 years in the league. And, it's not just because they're working out, it's because they're finally, packing on the protein and the right protein and the right carbs. But I guess like I wouldn't be shocked if he has struggles with his skating. Great. Saw how that worked out for Matt Coronado. Sometimes you just need some extra tutoring. And I was reading his scouting report, and it sounds like he is a pretty solid defensive forward as well. He'll apply pressure, and he plays really well along the boards and protects the puck. So I think that is, again, a skill that the Flames they definitely take advantage of, and hopefully adding more players like that to their arsenal will get the ball rolling, because I feel like we have come to a complete stop. And speaking of plateauing, it feels like that's where the Flames are. But coming up next, we're going to talk about this team not being able to finish the job and just how frustrating these last few games have been here on Locked On Flames. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. That is my favorite thing. I love pistachios. I grew up eating pistachios. They were always in the house. And now I have Wonderful Pistachios in my house all the time. They are great on the go. I keep them. I have some in my cabinet. I have some at my desk at work, so I can keep fuel in my tank. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It is the perfect grab and go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, on the road, or just need a quick pick me up. Wonderful Pistachios are there for me. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Jess Belmosto. We are all aware of the state of the Flames. And this final stretch has been a very cruel reminder of where this team is. And I think that the issue with the organization is the short-term vision, the short-term plan. There is a longer-term plan in place that Craig Conroy speaks of, but it doesn't feel like we are reaching benchmarks to meet the progress to that long-term plan. I don't know how long this long-term plan is, but I would like it to be a little bit shorter than what we're looking at right now. Right now, it kind of does feel like where we were at 2 years ago, 3 years ago with, Brad Treliving just leaving, and we were hoping for things to change, but they never did. And then, you get one good year of draft picks, free agent signings, some trades. Like, you get that, but then this year you just come back into it and it's like, okay. Like, we took one step forward and about 3 steps back. And I get I get it. I get why you want to keep morale up. I get why you want players to be happy. Why you want everything to be hunky dory. Like, I understand that, but that approach has to be met with something else and not just la-di-da, the players kind of control it all. I don't think that that's necessarily how it should be. I think there needs to be more balance, because if Craig Conroy was serious about making this team a more competitive team, I wholeheartedly believe he would have traded Rasmus Andersson or Blake Coleman at the trade deadline. I think that those two options, I understand not trading Kadri. That I do understand, and that's fine. But Coleman and Anderson are two players that still have a little bit of term left on their contracts. They're still effective, and they get you some good assets in return. And we talked about it a lot last season, in this off season, is draft capital. You have to have draft capital and enough draft capital to make a difference, whether it's packaging trades, trading up in the draft, or securing those the prospects. And I feel like we're steering back to where we don't want to be. And it just we don't need to go back to the drawing board. I don't think it needs to go that far. However, I do think we need to look at this season as an isolation in itself. There's a word for it that I just can't think of. And look at it and say, the only thing that is truly different from this team compared to last year, other than, the trades that happened, was Dustin Wolf was in net. Low scoring, low shooting, bad special teams, penalty kill falls under that category, but I'm still going to sit here and cry about it being as bad as it is. And a system that just isn't working. Sure, you get 27 goals out of Jonathan Huberdeau, which is great. It is great. But we need to look at the bigger picture here. It does not matter that this was a good season. The Flames had an opportunity. And I don't want to say they blew it, because that does sound a little bit dramatic, but I feel like no moves by the deadline, only trading for Frost and Farabee, not being a broker, and really making a push for the playoffs kind of deters you from where you were. And it kind of feels like it's all talk and no action. And I think that's what fans are frustrated with. And I completely understand. And I really don't blame anyone, because Conroy came in here and had this plan and this vision. And it feels like right now, and I know we're only a year into this thing, but it feels like that was just lip service. There was no, like, how is this any different from like Brad Treliving? Okay, so he he signed Ryan Lomberg. Okay. Like, that's ineffective fourth liners. Woo. Like, I don't see the difference. I mean, thank goodness Conroy has his head on a little straighter and we aren't seeing 7-year deals handed out to 27-year-old free agents. But in all seriousness, there has to be action behind this desire to change. Otherwise, it is just words, and you're going to lose the fan base. That article that came out today about the fans having to pay, a little bit extra on these surcharges for the new arena. No offense, but if your general manager and front office can't put a good team on the ice, I don't think people are going to want to go to your arena, and let alone put more money back into the owner's pockets. I don't see it happening. If you're not icing a good product, people aren't going to come see it. It really is as simple as that. And I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that this offseason, Conroy's a little more aggressive than he was in season. Maybe, people say that James Johnson from the Win column always says it's Conroy's Country Club on Twitter. And I think that is the funniest thing because, again, it should not be all hunky-dory. There has to be some edge and some competitiveness and just edge to your locker room. The players should not have full control over this. Last year, I understand he came in and said to these pending UFAs, what is your vision? Do you want to be here? 6 out of 7 of them left. Okay. So what makes you think that that's not going to happen again at some point? Why don't you get ahead of the ball game and cash in while you can? And coming up next, we're going to talk about the final stretch some more because while there are still 7 games left, it just does not feel like this season can end fast enough. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is super easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. So if you two have some financial goals, you can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off of your first year. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. Next week, these shows will be recorded in Calgary. Isn't that crazy? Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Probably just Thursdays and Fridays, and then Mondays and Tuesdays of the following week. But I'll be in Calgary soaking up the last 3 home games of the season. This final stretch has been brutal. There's 7 games. You're not gaining any ground. St. Louis isn't slowing down. The Wild are just continuing to do Minnesota Wild things. You are currently 6 points out of the wild card spot. Minnesota has fallen to the second wild card. St. Louis has jumped there just by 1 point, but still, there is still a considerable gap. And I don't necessarily think that the Flames have it in them to close that gap. I think that these last few games have been very hard on them. And that's not what you want. You have to find ways to win. You have to. That is really the premise of a hockey game, any sporting event. The end goal is to win. Sometimes you're not successful, and that's okay. But I do feel like even though this team is not mathematically eliminated, does it make sense to come to terms with missing the playoffs? It is okay to admit that this team is not ready. They should not be sniffing a playoff spot. Everyone, if this team does make the playoffs, every single person owes Dustin Wolf some sort of gift because it is on him. What would this team look like had they not had Wolf? I have an answer. Probably worse than last year's team. So there is still so much work to be done with the roster construction. And like I mentioned before, I don't want to say pulling punches, but making the hard decisions to part ways with important players or players that have been here a long time. You aren't going to get anywhere with a 36-year-old Rasmus Andersson. If he is continuing to play the way he's playing. You're already seeing such a horrendous drop off in play. What's next? And I think to the Igor Sharangovich contract, he had one great year in Calgary and Conroy threw a lot of time and money at him. And this year he's not doing great. And it's just unfortunately it's looking like a pattern, and I understand down years happen. This year, I'm sure, was very difficult for Rasmus Andersson, but there are parts of being a general manager or part of management that making those hard decisions are a rite of passage. They stink. They're not necessarily fun, but you got to do something. It is not personal. It is a business. And I understand wanting to keep everyone happy and not, sending this message that, this person did so much for this organization and now they just traded him once he got older. That's not good. It's like sending your dog to the farm upstate. The dog doesn't really go to a farm upstate, but they have to start making moves. They have to start pulling the pillars down. There are more than enough players within this leadership group to hold them up. And if you're concerned about that, I mean, it will be okay. I don't think this is a situation where, like in Chicago, where the oldest player on the team was 25 for a little while. And there was no leadership core group because everyone had either left, traded, retired, or just stopped playing. And there's enough. And I think that the organization also actually supports its players enough to do something like that. And I understand not wanting to pull the rug out from players, but you have to make these choices. You cannot make decisions with your heart. You have to be making them with your brain. That's it. And I understand. It is hard. And you can say, oh, well, maybe Rasmus Andersson has a bounce back year next year. Great. Trade him at the deadline. Great. There is no reason why the Flames need to sign what will be a 29-year-old defenseman for 7 years. There's no need for it. I hate saying that. I love Rasmus Andersson. I think he's great. I think he's, at one point, a few seasons ago, I said name him captain over Michael Backlund. That was just my opinion, but he had the heartbeat. He was the heartbeat of this team, really, after Tkachuk left and Weegar came in too, and both of them just kind of worked in tandem in being, that rallying force and keeping spirits high when really they were probably not great. And yes, that's great. Those are fantastic assets and intangibles to have, but we're not icing an intangible contest. We're icing to win a Stanley Cup. So let's start constructing a hockey team like it. Fair enough? But that will do it for me here on today's episode of Locked On Flames. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you have a fantastic evening and rest of your week. I will be back tomorrow, and you can find the show wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. Bye-bye.